All right, I want to welcome everybody to our Silver Lining webinar where we're covering deworming and EPM management. This is a subject that is near and dear to our heart just because EPM seems to definitely be on a rise, and we want to educate our customers more than ever on this subject, and there's not a single horse owner that can't benefit from learning more about deworming. It's honestly crucial to the health of your horses, and we're excited to share this information. We want this to be an interactive webinar as well. So if you have any questions, definitely put your question in the chat throughout the conversation. Today, we have several team members that are here to answer your questions. And then at the end of the webinar, I'll be putting some time aside to have a Q&A with everybody. So, but let's jump in. So the reason why we're picking this subject this time of year is because it's a great time to deworm your horse. And alongside of that, this is the time of year where we see an increase of EPM cases. So there's different theories of why that is, but we'll jump into it and we'll start discussing the subject. So first and foremost, on deworming, it is important to know what kind of damages uh, parasites can cause in your horses to really understand the need for it. I think a lot of people understand that it can cause, some physical issues, whether that's like a pot belly or an itchy tail head or different things like that. But the symptoms from parasite infestation can cause a lot more than that. We outlined some of the most popular parasites and worms that affect horses and some of the issues that they can cause. So you'll see here a lot of colic, anemia, weight loss, poor performance. Also too, especially like bots here in Idaho right now, bots. We're kind of just wrapping up the bot season really, but they can cause just so many different issues. And if you Google anything on bots, you can see how much they really tear up the intestinal lining and cause lots of different lesions and issues for your horse. So it's really important to stay on top of these things. To stay on top of it, we have to make sure that we're deworming appropriately. So we recommend 2 to 4 times a year to deworm horses. This depends a lot on some various circumstances. So if you are in a warmer climate, humid climate, wet climate, it's more likely that it's more appropriate for you to deworm your horse 4 times a year. So quarterly, think of it in that case. Now, if you're in a cooler, drier climate, 2 times a year is most likely appropriate. Stage of life matters for your horses as well. So younger horses, like we outlined here, foals especially, in that first year of life, deworming them about 4 times a year is very appropriate for them. And then also too, understanding how much your horse is shedding. So meaning how much they're evacuating out of the body. There's higher shedders and lower shedders. So you'll recognize that older horses are typically lower shedders and younger horses are higher shedders. And so with that, we need to adjust our deworming for them. So again, if they're a higher shedder, I like to go more frequently with my deworming. And if they're a lower shedder, less frequently with the deworming. And a fecal test is a great way to understand that in your horses. The caveat with fecal testing that I always tell people, it's a snapshot in time. So it's good information to have, but it's not necessarily something that we need to like get really overly caught up in. So like how to understand that a little bit better, we need to know what normal is for your horse. So that's a good thing to understand. Um, when I hear that people have fecal tests that are testing zero, that seems like inaccurate information to me because uh, rarely is it ever zero. You know, parasites have a natural life cycle where they get ingested by your horse, they're there and then they get evacuated by your horse. It's an ongoing cycle, but really the point of all of this is just to keep them moving through the body so they're never setting up camp, so to speak, and they're continually to be evacuated out of the body. Um, we talk a lot about the lunar cycle. And when we start talking about the lunar cycle, it throws people off sometimes. It's not something that they're typically familiar with. They're definitely familiar with deworming at different times of the year, but as far as the lunar cycle, it does do a big benefit. And that's whether you're using our dewormer or a different dewormer. I would encourage everybody to use the lunar cycle for their deworming practices. The reason why it is so effective is because this is when the parasites are most active. Uh, the horse's serotonin levels naturally go up, their melatonin levels go down. And I don't know if you've ever recognized this pattern with your own self, but a lot of times when there's a full moon, our sleep habits change. Our circadian rhythm gets messed up. So we might be waking up multiple times throughout the night. And that's because our melatonin levels are going down and our serotonin levels are going up during those full moon cycles. And the same thing for our horse. And it affects our sleep cycles, it affects their sleep cycles, it affects the parasites' activity. It also is triggering those female worms to ovulate. And so they're actually detaching from the intestinal lining and they're more active and they're more vulnerable. So it's a good practice to deworm at that time. We suggest to start our dewormer 10 days leading up to the full moon so we can help support the evacuation process of that. But then we'll have questions from clients saying, well, I'm 2 days late for the deworming cycle to land exactly on the full moon. Don't get caught up in that. Like, just go ahead and deworm. Or if I miss a day in deworming and that 10-day cycle, don't get caught up in that either. You can't get that day back. So just go ahead and continue with the scheduled process of deworming. Also, too, if somebody does a fecal test or they feel like they need to deworm their horse and it's not inside of the lunar cycle leading up to those 10 days, go ahead and deworm your horse. If it's on the new moon, go ahead and deworm your horse. Don't necessarily get caught up in it, but it is definitely best practice to be deworming at that time. Also, too, gut flora is so important for the horse. The flora, those little fingertips that allow to move the feces and food throughout the intestinal lining easier. And so this makes it much easier on that gut flora. So definitely best practice to be deworming at that time. What we suggest for deworming is our herbal wormer, and it has several different herbs in there to really what it's doing is making a non-conducive environment. So the worms, parasites, and protozoa simply want to leave the body on their own. So the way most of us were trained growing up with horses is to do a rotational deworming. So we're going to be focused on pinworms at certain times. We're going to be focused on strongylls at certain times. We focused on bots at certain times, and it's said that these parasites will become resistant to that. But that's why they're recommending different types of dewormers at different times of years because they're species specific. But with our herbal wormer, we are not species specific. It's all encompassing because of the philosophy that we have towards deworming, and that's to make it a non-conducive environment. So the worms, parasites, and protozoa simply want to leave the body on their own. It's not hospitable to the parasite. So a great analogy that Mickey Young, the founder of Silver Lining Herbs, has said for years, and I love it because it's such a good visual for this philosophy is think about a junk pile, and that junk pile has rice or mice and rats that are living in it. Now, you're not going to go in there and just kill the rats or just kill the mice because they're going to keep coming back to the junk pile because that's a environment that they want to be in. But instead, the better thing to do is to get rid of the junk pile, and then the rats and mice will leave on their own. So that's the same thing that essentially our herbal warmer is doing, is getting all that debris, all the environment that those parasites and worms want to live in, and cleaning up the digestive system and evacuating it out of the body. Now, there's definitely some species, or there's some specific herbs that are in the herbal warmer that are great anti-parasitic properties. So there is some killing going on and things like that. Like the clove and the wormwood that's in there, that's really specific to that. But then we have some great herbs in there that are great digestive herbs, like the slippery elm and the cascara, to help evacuate those out of the body. The other benefit that I love with our herbal warmer is because it's a gentle yet effective combination on deworming, is that if there is a large infestation, that it's not doing so much killing that we could risk impaction and colic of the horse. I know that a lot of times individuals will be recommended to do like a power pack to a horse if there's a large infestation of parasites or worms. But what that can cause is because there's so much killing that's going on that it can cause that impaction. Unfortunately, I was in this situation when I was younger, far before I knew anything about silver lining, and we had a yearling that had all the classic signs of parasites, had a pot belly, rough hair coat, was itching his tail head, and so it was recommended to us to do a power pack on this yearling, and so we did that. Well, he had such an infestation that it ended up impacting him. He colicked and unfortunately passed away. And so I always, after that moment, I knew that there was a better way to do things than that. And then once I learned about Silver Linings Herbal Wormer, I really understood how much more beneficial this could be to horses. So it's been a great product that we've used. Me personally, I've used it for 16 years, I guess, at this point. And we have 8 horses at our house. Most of them are performance horses. We have a brood mare, a pony, and it works great for all of them. The dosage for this is a tablespoon scoop. The product's in a powdered form. You do a tablespoon per day for a 1,000-pound horse. So that works out great. We feel very confident and comfortable using it on our brood mare who's in foal right now. Feel very confident using this on the mare when she has a foal on her side. And when you're talking about deworming with the foal, what we recommend is just go ahead and put the herbal wormer in the grain for the mare, and then she's going to pass that on to the foal. So those first few dewormings, when they might not be eating grain yet, this would be a great way to deworm that foal. And then as the foal ages and starts to pick at grain and eat grain eventually, he can just share that with the mare in that situation. So it does a really good job to support their health throughout that. Senior horses as well, all sorts. It's a great management product for the horses. So what are customers saying about the herbal warmer? Feel so confident using Silver Lining products, especially pleased to be able to effectively worm my horses without chemicals. I think most people don't like the idea of doing the chemical dewormer, especially if you ever read the label and you see the warning sign saying wear gloves on it, don't contact your skin, and then you're putting that orally into your horse's mouth. So this is definitely a better option than that. Also, too, horses that aren't easy to catch or easy to put a syringe in a horse's mouth, this is a great option as well. We have an older horse at our house named Doc. He's 30 years old this year, and he has hated tube warmers his entire life. We had to kind of corral him between two panels to put him almost like in a stock and get him to tube worm him. So it wasn't a pleasant experience for him. It was a dangerous experience for him and us. And so I definitely love the way that we can do this feed through dewormer for horses like that as well. Um, the one thing with the herbal wormer that I like to do is especially for a new horse that's never gotten it before, the clove is a in the product is a pretty pungent smell. And so they might be a little slow to eat it at times. If I was going to say that one was a little slower to eat a product of ours, this probably would be the one that it is, but just stay consistent with it. You can reach out to our customer service team. They have a great blog on tips to help that pickier eater. One of the favorite things that I like to do is I use whole oats for my horses. I add the herbal warmer to it. Then I give some of our hemp seed coconut oil to help with the palatability of it. And then I'll dump it like on a flake of hay on the ground where they can't like walk away from the grain bucket, but they just have to like sift through the hay and the grain together. And it does a really good job for them. This other review that Erin wrote, she talked about the benefits with it for EPM. So this is a great transition for us to start talking about EPM in this situation. So EPM, it used to be pretty isolated to uh, the South, to the Midwest. It was always said to be associated with possum feces, but now it seems like we've heard a case of EPM in about every region of the country. And why that is, that could be because of hay being shipped in. It could be because of horses traveling the way they travel now. Um, but honestly, the parasite has to be uh, more coming from more animals than just the possum. Cats, raccoons, skunks, armadillos, and otters all carry this same parasite. And what EPM, it's equine protozoal myelencephalitis, and it is a caused by a parasite called sarcostic. I always stumble on this word, Sarcostis neurona. And what that does is it is in one of those animals, so the possum, cat, raccoon, and when they have a bowel movement, it's in the feces, and it can contaminate the hay, the feed, and the drinking water. So when that horse is grazing on that hay, they ingest the parasite, and then it can cause some different neurological issues. So a lot of the symptoms that you'll see from EPM is a lack of coordination. That seems to be the first one that people recognize. Typically, it's on one side of the body. Um, it can also cause like droopiness of the face, like almost look like a stroke victim, like their eye might be a little droopy, or the side of their mouth isn't working, or a nostril isn't working quite as well as the other. Muscle atrophy, overall weakness. And this can develop very quickly, or it can develop slowly over time. I was doing some research earlier this week on this subject, and it says one half of all horses in the Midwest have said to be affected or exposed to this parasite. So it's out there. It's just whether your horse is going to contract it or not. So if you're recognizing one of those symptoms happening, the like muscle atrophy, the neurological symptoms like untrue tracking, like it might be that they're kind of like fishtailing in the back end a lot of times. There's different ways to diagnose it. So if you go to a veterinarian, they'll do a physical exam on your horse, and a lot of times what they'll do is they'll like back your horse in circles to see how their coordination is affected. They'll pull on your horse's tail to see if they step sideways and catch themselves or not. Or they'll take a back leg and they'll pick it up and cross it in front of the other back leg, and then lead your horse forward to see if they're recognizing, if they can understand where their hind limbs are. So if they trip and stumble over that, then they're thinking, okay, this horse potentially has a neurological issue like EPM. Or if they uncross their legs and walk forward, then it kind of is starting to rule those kind of things out. And this is something that you could very well do to your own horses as well. The next step that the veterinarian will typically do in this situation is a blood or a cerebrospinal fluid test. So when they do the blood test and they recognize there's this parasite there, it just means that they've been exposed to it. So because of that fact I just said earlier, half of the horses in the Midwest have been exposed to this parasite. So it doesn't necessarily mean that your horse has EPM, but it does show that your horse has been exposed to this parasite. So it's just it's a good indicator, but it's not necessarily diagnosing your horse with EPM. The cerebrospinal fluid test detects the organism. So this is when they start to talk about the titer score. How high is your horse's titer score? So if it's 1 in 500 or higher, that is indicating a active infection. The problem with this, because it's a spinal tap, there's a cross-contamination going through the blood there. So there's a lot of false positives with this test, but still a good tool to use nonetheless. What I personally like to use is an acupressure test that I can do myself, and I'm going to explain to you guys how to do it. We also have a YouTube video and some videos on TikTok and Instagram that shows this, and I'll have my team put this in on the chat so you guys can see this video as well. It's super simple, and it's something that the founder Mickey Young had taught me how to do. So between the physical exam that I can do myself and the acupressure point test that I can do myself, this gives me a really good indication whether my horse has EPM or not. So this EPM point that's circled in red on this screen is on the left side of the horse. And imagine if this horse had jeans on, and this is the outseam of the jeans. So that's about what you're thinking about for the location of the point. And then it's stifle high. So if you would press on that point with a finger with firm pressure, and that horse would show discomfort, that would tell me that horse does in fact have EPM. And the one thing I have to caution you with on this point is they're very reactive. So Mickey always talked about, it's like you're pregnant or you're not pregnant. You're not kind of pregnant. You're not kind of not pregnant. You are or you aren't. And the same thing on this point. These horses are reactive or they're not reactive. You really don't have to scratch your head on understanding whether this horse is reactive or not. So when they're reactive, they're going to try to kick. They're going to pin their ears, bend their head around, potentially maybe try to bite you. Like, it is absolutely just shows discomfort from the horse. So definitely put yourself in a safe place on your horse when you're testing this out. So stand close to their barrel and make sure you have control of their head. It's good to have a second person there to help you out to stay safe in this case. But if you press there with firm pressure and they are reactive, so they kick out or something like that, that's going to indicate to me that they do in fact have EPM. And also too, we're going to more than likely see some of these other symptoms that we mentioned: the untrue tracking, the muscle atrophy, poor behavior, things like that. So since this parasite's out there, it's not something that we're going to stop our horses from ingesting. So we got to make sure that we're proactive and we know what to do with treatment. So let's start with treatment. So we have a combination called EP minus, and it really has a 4-prong approach to supporting the horse's health. It focuses on supporting the horse's neurological system. It focuses on eliminating the parasite out of the body, focuses on enhancing your horse's immune system and the digestive health of your horse. So the reason why it focuses on 4 different areas of your horse is because that EPM really affects those four areas of your horse. So this is what happens when that horse ingests the parasite. It then is in the intestinal tract of your horse. It then accesses the central nervous system through a lesion in the digestive system. So a lesion meaning could be a stomach ulcer, it could be a hind gut ulcer, something like that. And then once it accesses the central nervous system, it is causing it damage. So you can think of it as like a bare wire in your house, and all of a sudden you have a little short, like the light switch isn't working as well, and so that signal is not being communicated to the other areas of the body like it should be. And then whenever you have something like this happening in the body, the immune system's compromised at the same time. Again, the founder of Silver Lining, Mickey Young, was great at analogies, and this is the way that he explained it to so many customers and to myself to better understand it. So think of a haystack that's fenced in with a fence to keep the cows out of the haystack. The hay represents the central nervous system. The fence represents the intestinal lining of the horse, and the cows represent the parasite. Now, we know that the cows are around, we know that the parasite's around, but they're not going to bother the hay unless there's a hole in the fence. So if somebody leaves the gate open or the fence goes down for whatever reason, then those cows are going to find itself into the haystack and start messing up the hay. They're going to destroy that haystack. And so what we have to do then, if we have cows in our haystack, we first have to get the cows out of the haystack, out of the hay trap. So we have to get the parasite out of the body. That's one portion of our EP minus. The second portion of that is that we need to repair the fence or repair the digestive system in this case. And that's why we have those very specific herbs in the EP minus to repair the intestinal lining and integrity of that horse, to heal any ulcer that might be present there. We also have to tidy up the hay. So that's representing the central nervous system. So that's why there's very specific herbs in our EP minus to support the central nervous system, to make sure that it's can work properly again, and those right signals can move from the brain to the other areas of the body that need to there. And then with all this stress going on, all this chaos going on in this haystack with the cows and the down fence and everything, that puts a lot of stress on everything, the whole environment, right? So that's the immune system. So we got to make sure that the immune system is strong as well. So we're very specific with the EP minus and the four-prong approach to really bring the integrity back to those EPM horses. So the EPM horse, like I said, it can be very aggressive, or it can be like the onset of it. Obviously, if we can catch it sooner than later, is ideal. So treatment-wise, our product is a 60-day supply. We recommend going 60 days consistently with that product, and then let's reassess your horse, see how they're doing. If they're 100% better, then we can look at next steps for them for overall maintenance and well-being. Or after that 60-day mark, if there's 75% improvement, but we have some more improvement to be done, then we can stay with the EP minus for another 60 days. And then at that point, we reassess again. We believe in giving the horses what they need when they need it. So it's really important to be in tune to your horse, and we really leverage you guys to help us communicate. And again, throughout this entire process, we have a great customer service representative team that you can call and have this conversation with them to make sure that we get your horses the right support that they need. As far as proactive measures, EP minus would be a great proactive measure to be supporting EPM. Honestly, I personally love this combination. I haven't had an EPM horse since we've launched this product a couple of years ago, but this would be a great preventative measure for him. I just love all the benefits that are in EP minus. So I'm like, yeah, I want my horse's central nervous system to be better, especially with all the stress and our performance horses that we have and things like that. Personally, I want their immune system to be better. I want them to be dewormed. I want their immune or digestive system to be healthy. I know that's a second brain for horses. So I use this combination a lot just as a maintenance program for our horses. But the other things that you can be doing is obviously try to keep things as clean in the environment as you can. You don't want raccoons and possums going through your property all the time. So do your best to keep those away if that's all possible. Easier said than done to do in certain areas, obviously. Follow good deworming practices. So the things that we said earlier, that we're making sure that we're following up with that deworming practice 2 to 4 times a year, following the lunar cycle in the ideal situation. That's a great practice to do. And also support your horse's immune system. Look, your horse cannot be sick and healthy at the same time. So the objective is to stay healthy all the time. So our immune support that we have does a great job to serve our horses to enhancing and stimulating their immune system. So when do I use our immune support? Seasons change. Right now is a great example of that. It went from, being 80 degrees in Idaho a couple weeks ago. Now we're having mornings in the low 30s. It rained yesterday. So all those things are taxing on the immune system, or vice versa. If I'm hauling my horse from Idaho to Arizona, big trips like that, I'll definitely put them on the immune system. When I have a new horse on the property, we'll put everybody on the immune support. Anything like that can cause stress to the immune system, I'm putting them on the immune support to be proactive against causing some sickness, or if they do possess that parasite, that it's not going to affect my horse. So those are some really good key things to do proactively with our horses. So with EPM, we talked about our EP minus combination. I just want to share this story with you guys on a story that I had when I was in high school. I personally had an EPM horse, and again, this was long before I knew anything about silver lining. So he was a calf roping horse, and what we started to recognize in him is some roping box issues. So we weren't able to get him in the corner of the box. He wasn't scoring as well as he should be. He wasn't working the rope as well as he should be. So all of a sudden we had some behavioral issues starting with him. And then all of a sudden we started noticing that his muscling had some muscle atrophy starting to happen. So we took him to a vet. I lived in Iowa at the time, so we took him to a vet down in the Des Moines, Iowa area. And he did all those physical exam tests that I explained to you guys. And what we did for him then at that time was Marquis. And so Marquis is a very popular pharmaceutical drug to use to help with EPM horses. And we did that. He got over the EPM, but his muscling never returned as well as it should have. If there was a horse that was sick on our property, like meaning like a runny nose or a cough or something like that, it was that horse. So he went from being my best high school rodeo calf roping horse to he was just basically a pasture horse. Barely used him after that. Rode him every once in a while, but definitely wasn't to his full potential again. And then later on, when I got introduced to silver lining, I started understanding the protocol that Mickey had always recommended for EPM. And I understand, like, Marquis is a powerful antiprotozoal medication, but it is nothing for the immune system. It does nothing for the digestive system. Arguably, it hampers the digestive system, the kidneys and the liver, because of the chemical load that's in there. And so we need to do more. So this protocol makes so much more sense to support the entire integrity of the horse that's dealing with EPM. So later on in life, once I did get accustomed or introduced to silver lining herbs, then I learned about the immune support. That horse changed completely. He never had a great hair coat again. It was always kind of dull until I got him on immune support. Changed like 180 degree. Also, Mickey recommended to me using our kidney and our liver support to help evacuate impurities and toxins out of the body. 60 days of that, this horse bloomed back to his old self again. So it was wild. So there was an 8-year period between when he had EPM and when I got introduced to silver lining and put him on the protocol, and he changed rapidly. So I just think that's how cool health is. That's how cool the body is, that it's capable of regenerating itself to healing itself. It just has to have the right tools, the right nutrition in order to do that. And that is all here to help horses out in those situations. So what are customers saying about EP minus? Significant improvement, all in one, great product, natural way to kill pathogens. So it just really encompasses everything that these horses need to really be supporting them and have really good health. So we talked about next steps. So you have an EPM horse, they have these symptoms, you use EP minus, you resolve the issue. Now what do you do? So it'd be crazy to not do anything, because not doing anything is actually taking a step backwards. We want to keep taking a step forward. I say all the time, health is an everyday decision, and we have to make sure that we're giving a variety of vegetation back to our horses on a consistent basis, because if we're not, we're creating a lot of excesses in their bodies and we're creating a lot of deficiencies. So we're trying to find that baseline all the time, and variety is where we get the baseline. So we have a product called Total Body Support. You can think of this as like a multivitamin, multi-mineral that you can give your horse on a consistent, ongoing basis and really support their entire well-being. That will be a great support for them. I talked about the immune support. This is a great thing to be doing more ongoing. It does seem like these horses are more immune compromised than other horses. So this is something to do on an ongoing basis. Deworming, make sure that you're following good deworming practices, those 2 to 4 times a year for that 10-day period, ideally with a lunar cycle. Our hemp seed coconut oil is a source of vitamin E and omegas. And this was the thing I was going to touch on earlier, and I'm glad this slide came back so I could remember to share this with you. So a lot of it's being suggested a lot to use vitamin E for EPM horses, 10,000 IUs of EPM of vitamin E a day. And the reason for it is to support the horse's immune system. So our EP minus doesn't necessarily have isn't like a liquid vitamin E or anything like that, but it does definitely support the immune system. There's naturally occurring vitamin E in there, and it will give your horse everything that it needs to support that. So really see no reason from the results that our customers have had over the 20 plus years that we've had this protocol going for, that we'd need additional vitamin E to it. You're welcome to it if you feel the need for it, but just with the results that we get from EP minus, you don't need it. But there is some good vitamin E in the hemp seed coconut oil that would benefit your horse. And with the omegas that are in there as well, it's going to help with the body's natural response to inflammation, to reduce inflammation that is present in the body. And obviously, inflammation in the body creates so many different issues, opportunities for diseases and things like that. And then EP minus, like I said, could be great just for ongoing support. You could talk to a CSR and talk about lessening the dose or what a good dosage was for your horse, and just be candid and transparent. And we'll do the same with you to ensure the integrity of your horse's health and well-being moving forward. So I've mentioned customer service representatives several times throughout this conversation, and I really encourage you and everybody to leverage their expertise. They are so knowledgeable. They help so many horses out. They're all horse owners themselves. They've all walked the miles. And the benefit that you have with talking to them, because a lot of times, like for instance, if I have a health issue come across my horse, like for instance, talk about EPM. I've had one EPM horse in my entire life that I've needed help with that. But our CSRs deal with EPM every single day. So not only are they drawing from your experience and their own personal experience, but they're also drawing from a lot of other people's experiences. So they can honestly pull time forward and pull that health of your horse forward. So definitely leverage them. I think there's been a link put in the chat. Yeah, I just seen one from Amy put in the chat about booking a time with them. So I definitely encourage you to book time with them on their calendar. So that way you can uh, figure out what's the best course. And we're talking about EPM and deworming today, but they know so much about so many different health issues. So it can be ulcers, it can be navicular, it can be so many, metabolic issues, whatever it might be, and they can definitely guide you and help you along the way. So with that, I definitely want to answer any questions that you guys might have. So if you have a question, you can raise your virtual hand, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. Kirsten, I'll ask you, is there anything as I was talking throughout this conversation that may have missed that want to make sure that we highlight on these particular subjects?
I know that there was a question in the chat asking if you could give it with other products that they're already on as well. So maybe if you want to talk a little bit about that, that's a very common question that we get every single day is a horse might need feet and bone support, but might also could benefit from the herbal warmer or the EP minus. And so just making sure that they know that it's definitely safe to give all of them together.
Absolutely. So we kind of have this unwritten rule here at Silver Lining Herbs that says to give no more than 4 combinations at once. And the reason for that is not because we're worried about toxicity or overload or anything like that. But typically when a customer starts to think that they need 5, 6, 7 different combinations, they're chasing symptoms and not the root cause of the issue. So we're always asking, and if you ever had a conversation with one of our team members, they're going to be pointing out the why, not, uh, my horse has neurological issues, so let's just chase that symptom, but they're going to figure out why they have neurological symptoms. Or my horse is lame, let's just do something for pain. No, let's go understand why that horse has pain. Is it bone, tendon, ligament? Whatever the case might be there. So a lot of times we can mix and match these combinations up to have an ideal protocol for your horse's health and well-being. So it's very common to mix and match these combinations up. Again, this unwritten rule that we have of no more than 4 combinations because we want to be specific to your horse's needs and going after the root of it, but absolutely no problem doing herbal warmer and feet and bone together or doing EP minus and hemp seed coconut oil together. In fact, we oftentimes encourage it. Most times for my own personal horses, they're on 2 to 3 combinations at any one given time because there's things that I'm dealing with them that I need to address, and there's things that I'm wanting to prevent from happening with them. So I'm addressing that. And again, our horses need variety. Ever since we started limiting our horses variety of vegetation that they get access on one given in a given time period, we start to create those deficiencies and excesses in the bodies. So that looks like from a horse being having a section acre of land to graze across to now horses a lot of times are in a stall or a corral, and they're only getting what gets thrown over the fence to them. So it's really important for them to get a lot of variety in their diet.
What if I have a horse that does really well on any of our combinations and I don't want to take them off of it, but will they build up any type of like resistance to that product? Do I need to take them off of it for a certain amount of time?
Great question. So herbs are the purest forms of vitamins and minerals. They're the easiest assimilated at the cellular level, so they're actually food to the horse. So the way God created the whole system is he's like, I'm gonna put the vitamins and minerals in the ground, then I'm gonna have the plants pull them out and make them in a recognizable form for the animal that comes by and eats that plant. And so not only are they getting the nutritional value from the plant, they're also getting the functionality of the plant. So think about slippery elm, for instance. It's the inner bark of an elm tree, and a horse will go by and eat the bark off the tree. So are they getting nutritional benefits from that? 100%. Are they getting functional benefits from that? 100%, because that mucilage that's inside of that slippery elm bark is helping things move through the esophagus better, the intestinal line better, the blood through the vascular system better, the urine through the urinary system better. So they're not going to build a resistance from it. If it's a nutritional need that they no longer require, it's going to be evacuated out of the elimination systems of the body, meaning urinary and digestive system. But beyond that, they're also getting functional benefits from those herbs. So I don't worry about that really at all. But again, I'm always asking myself, I want to give my horse what they need when they need that. It's a simple concept, but it can be pretty confusing and complex. So I'd really recommend at that point, have a conversation with our customer service representative team so they can really fine tune that. And we're always doing the best for the horse.
We did just have a question in the chat from Megan, and she said, with competitions, will any of these herbs test positive for banned substances? And I'm not sure if she means only for the herbal wormer or the EP minus or any of our products, but if you want to talk a little bit on that.
Yeah, so there's definitely some organizations out there that limit herbs for use in competition, and it's important to know what those rules of your organization are. We put everything that's in our products on the label, so it's a really good idea, especially if you're in that situation, to read the label and understand the rules of your organization. We recommend a 72-hour withdrawal period prior to competition in those cases. For instance, I know like Valerian's one of those, and it seems like we hear about new ones all the time. But knock on wood, to date, we've not had any issues with that. So we recommend following that 72-hour withdrawal period and definitely knowing the rules of the competition that you're entered in and reading the label on the bag. Well, great. Well, if we have no more questions, it's been great spending this time with you. We definitely appreciate your time that you spent with us. We know there's a lot of places to be spending your time. We want you to know that we are committed to the quality of health of your horses, your dogs, and yourself. And we know that the only way that we can do that is create a quality product, which we've done a very good job of over the 20 plus years of business that we've been in. And the second part to that is we have to provide the education. So we have a great team of customer service representatives that can help you in that. Go to our YouTube channel, our blog, sign up for our email and SMS updates so we can continue to give you and your horses and your dogs the better quality of life that you all deserve. Thank you for your time today.
Hey, I have one question if we're still there.
Absolutely, Alex.
Okay, sorry. I found silver lining herbs, I think this year, last year, I don't know, but I have spent a bunch of money, but I love your all stuff.
Thank you.
But I missed the one, and I can't remember now what it was. I saw it today as I was looking on Facebook to find this. If we missed that where you all did the Zoom meeting, is there any way we could still get like the recording by chance?
Yes, absolutely. So that recording is on our YouTube channel. And
Okay.
so if you go to our YouTube, search for Silver Lining Herbs. And I just had it brought up earlier today, honestly, and maybe somebody can get a link in the chat
Okay.
to.
I'm well aware of I know how to find your YouTube channel. I watch all your videos.
Yeah, and if you look at our videos and like most recently posted, it's probably one of the last 3 videos that are there. So it'll be able to help you out there.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. And I love your products. They've really helped all of my horses. So I had a case. I've actually got 2 on the EPM minus right now, and I am already telling a difference. So I'm excited and glad to have it. So thank you.
So if you don't mind sharing, I'd love to hear your feedback on that. Tell me the situation that your horses were in, and then what you're seeing changes and how long you've been using the product.
Okay, well, so the EPM minus, I had a 2-year-old, and she just seemed like she wasn't growing as well as I thought she should be. And this is after I have a yearling actually that was really what prompted me to find you all. She had been really sick. I got her as a weanling last year. I think we picked her up the end of September, and by October she was had been sick and a snotty nose and a cough. And the vets, I took her to the vet, and we were vet after vet after vet, and they just kept giving her antibiotic after antibiotic, and she might be okay on the antibiotic. She come off the antibiotic 2 days later, she'd be sick and coughing and snotty again. And so I finally, and I am a nurse, and it took me a while, and I was like, why are we keep just, she'd been through all these antibiotics. She had, we hadn't put her on anything for gut, for immune or anything. So I was like, she needs an immune support. So I started Googling, and I came across your all's immune. And that's how I got originally found your company. And I called first before I ordered and talked to, I've talked to several of the representatives, and they've all been great. But the 2-year-old is really what got me on the EPM minus, and I just thought she just wasn't growing that well. And the yearling, I could go on and on and on. But I eventually put her on the EPM minus just maybe last month, and she is already doing much better, I think, as well. She's on multiple different products, and she's been on several in the past probably 8 months now, I think. But the EPM minus, I think, has really turned her around even more than she already had been. But the 2-year-old, I just put her on the EPM minus. I just felt like that maybe was what I should try, and I did. And I have a couple other 2 years, and she has went from one of the smaller ones to probably my biggest 2-year-old. She's actually at the trainer right now, and I took it with me. I took that and feet and bone, and I was like, will you just please keep giving this? So he said he would be glad to. So that's what he's been doing. And
Love
she's
it.
doing really good. So I'm excited about that. So I got a pony that we treated last year for EPM, just with, we didn't use the marquee or anything. We used, my vet makes his own solution for EPM. So we had done a treatment on him, and he is older. He's close to 20, maybe over 20, but I think he's right around 20. And it's my daughter's pony. She's had him since she was 6 months old. And he was one that had more of the classic signs, like he was real wobbly in the hind end.
Mm.
And we treated him last year, and he got better. But even then, I could tell he just wasn't his normal self. And he would get a cold, and he'd be the one that I still didn't think. He'd always been pretty hefty and never did get back all of his weight. He had lost the muscle tone. And I just started him on EPM minus about 2 weeks ago, and I already think he's gained some weight, and I already think he's walking better in the hind end. I got the EPM minus. I started him on it when I started. I don't know. He may have been, no, I think about a week to 2 weeks ago. And I just got some more for him and for my yearling that I put on it as well. And I bought him some kidney also because I wanted to go ahead. I didn't think that, for one reason, I thought kidney was in it, and then I thought it wasn't in the EPM minus. So I went ahead and put him on the kidney as well.
Perfect. No, awesome. I love to hear that feedback. So like on your younger horses, like how soon were you seeing positive results from the protocol?
Okay, so on my yearling, I saw it pretty quickly. She ended up having a 2-week stay at the vet. She got
She was
really
sick
sick.
then.
She was sick. And it, we were, by the time I think I found you, I think she'd been sick off and on for 6 to 9 months. And I finally was like, immune. So I looked in and I called, and we started her on immune and kidney. I don't think we put her on liver. We put her on respiratory, and maybe something else. But I could tell immediately, within 2 weeks, she looked better. Just generally looked better. She was shedding off better. She still wasn't 100%, but she looked really good. Now, even and so I've called back and forth, and we take her off something, or she'd come off of something, and I'd need to call back. She still just wasn't 100%. She'd seem 100%. She's seemed like she felt good, but she might then have a little bit of a snotty nose again, or she might have a little bit of cough, or my vets were having me still test blood work. And even in let's see, even in September, her blood work was still off. So I called back. We'd run one round of blood through her, and then she's back on the blood again right now. And then nobody really mentioned EPM minus to me, but I had taken her to Texas even, and I'm in Kentucky, so that's a pretty long trip to a vet down there. And when we got home, we saw one worm in her poop. Now we'd had a fecal run on her, but I hadn't wanted to worm her with a chemical wormer because she'd been so sick.
Mhm.
So we got home, we saw that worm. I ended up worming her with Panicure, even though I had her on the herbs, and I should have just used the herbal wormer too. But at that point,
I
I didn't
agree.
know as much about the that I could do it at any time. I thought I was going to need to wait to the actual, the this your schedule, and
Sure.
so it wasn't right on that. So I thought, well, I'll just worm with that when it came time. But I was going to go ahead and worm her with the Panicure, and she passed worms 4 days. I mean, huge worms. So I'm not honestly now. I'm not sure that wasn't honestly the whole cause of her entire sickness. Uh, and so with that, even now where her blood work would be good and she looks good, I just thought, I'm going to put her on the EPM minus and just give it a go and see, with it being parasite free. She's still on some of the others, but I think that was maybe the final thing to really just push her on. She looks great. She's really grown. She's shed out nice. One in each hawk that we found when I took her to that vet in Texas, but she's on feet and bones. So hopefully that'll help too. So
No, awesome. And that's the benefits from EP minus. Like you had a horse that had obviously a huge infestation of worms, their immune system's compromised, all these different things, and that's just a great maintenance program for horses. That's why I'm using it on my own, just because there's so many benefits that come from it. I want to keep those systems of my horses feeling good. So really appreciate you sharing that, Alex. I'm so glad your horses are feeling better, and yeah, continue to spread the good word so we can help more out.
I sure will. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you again. Thank you again, everyone, and have a blessed Friday and a great weekend.